Hi everyone, today I want to talk to you a little bit about Beijing Bicycle and in general the sixth generation movies and movie directors. I know the presenters already cover a lot of background information about this movie, so I'm not going to too much details into it, I promise. So just want you to have a general view and keep these questions into discussions and in mind when you do your homework. So here, a little bit about today, I will talk about sixth generation movies, Beijing Bicycle, the historical background, major ideas and critics. So sixth generation directors have emerged, and some of these are Wang Xiaoshuai. So he has The Days, Beijing Bicycle, and Zhang Yuan, he has Beijing Bastards, East Palace, West Palace, and Jia Zhangke, Xiao Wu, Unknown Pressures, Platform, and The World. The World is one of the most famous movies he has shot. And Lou Ye, he has Suzhou River. They emerged in the 1990s of a number of independent experimental filmmakers. And we call them return of the amateur filmmaker. As you know, the fifth generation directors are the big name ones like Feng Xiaogang or Zhang Yimou. If you've taken my film class, you've know all these generation of movie directors already. So sixth generation filmmakers, they under the state censorship policies have produced an edgy underground film movement, loosely referred to as the sixth generation. And they usually respond to the country's rapid modernization. So it comes up with issues such as the new social inequalities and new forms, and focusing on the newly emerging suburban class. For instance, in this particular movie, we have seen the rural migrants to the cities. And these films are usually shot pretty quickly and cheaply, which produces a documentary film. So they usually usually they have long takes and handheld cameras and ambient sound. Many films are joint ventures and projects with international investment. Unlike the fifth generation, the sixth generation brings a more individualistic, anti-romantic life view and pays more attention to the contemporary urban life, especially affected by disorientation. Sixth generation movies invite discussions on social realism. So as you know, Beijing Bicycle is about two teenagers, so one from the countryside and the other a Beijing resident, and they fight over ownership of a bike. It sounds ridiculous, but it's really good, and it touches on a lot of social problems, right? And the historical background of it is, of course, this urbanization. Since 1982, the urban population in China has gone significantly from 20% to 55%. And most of this migration has been in direct response to the opening up policy under Deng Xiaoping, in 1978, and the development of the economic zones. Beijing is one of these special zones, and the migrant population in Beijing right now is 1/3 of the total of approximately 20 million. A lot of them haven't been granted full citizenship, and they are also looked down upon by locals. And as you can see, some of you have visited Beijing, and there are a lot of these interesting hutongs. We call it, little alleys. So Beijing went through many changes since the 1980s, especially in the destruction of the hutongs and replaced with modern buildings. And the movie shifts between the city boys' hutong home and the empty construction sites around the city. This plays back and forth between the traditional living style and the modern developing city and can mirror the relationship of the two young men. Hutongs are these walled communities with narrow alleys and communal areas. Most of the demolition of the hutong started in early 2000s in preparation for the Olympics, which were held in 2008. So this movie touches upon this idea of migrants. When we talk about migrants, immigrants, then you probably first think about the external immigrants that move from China to other countries. But in fact, this movie also tells us about this like internal migrants, right? So when we talk about migrants, we have this notion of nomads of subjectivity. So that means they linger in a liminal space in which they belong neither to the country nor to the city. States' ambivalent attitude towards these uh, population, they are usually called 流动人口. If you know Chinese, you know that means floating population. So contribute to the economy, but they also cause potential problem for social stability. So you could see a lot of media representations, close here, media representations of rural migrants, treating them as a social problem rather than a new social force to be tapped. And not many films explore the issue of their displacement and subordination. Wang's films deserve watching because they examine the difficulties of making a living in an environment in which there is little support and trust, and the possibility of these workers form new social ties and eventually assimilate into the city. I won't go more details into Wang Xiaoshuai because I'm sure the presenters would touch upon that. So he was born in 1966, and then he went to the Central Academy of Fine Arts. And interestingly, so he and his family moved to Wuhan. In 1981, he enrolled in high school affiliated to the Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing. And some of his other films include Qing Hong and Red Amnesia, Chongqing Blues, and many others, right? And he also acted as an actor before. Okay. So again, some of the interesting phenomenon that I want you to pay attention to when watching this film, I'm not going to go into details into the film, but let me see if I can show a little clip of it. That in the beginning, so I'm not going to show a little the clip of it, but you all have access to the movie. So you could tell the beginning scene when they have the bicycle, and then it talks about they talk about the camel xiangzi of our new era, right? So somehow this is the subject formation of these like migrant workers, right? So somehow their social experience intertwined with an imaginary experience of the other because of the both material sense and ideological sense. And when they say, well, they're equipped with bicycles to take their place in urban society, the camel sounds of our modern era. And this means, refers to Lao She's novel, the 骆驼祥子, the camel 祥子. So in addition to the 50% monthly earnings, one has to pay another 30% until they paid for the bikes. And this is really bullshit, right? It's exploitation. The next slide, if you remember, the scene when the country boy hits the head of a city boy with a brick. So here, when the boy keeps wrecking the bike. So this is the moral decline, right? And you can interpret more. And so here also shows the class and rural migrant. So when little Gui went into the hotel to deliver a package to Mr. Huang, and he was forced to be a guest by the worker at the front desk and taken through all these services. And then when he was ready to just there to deliver something, Huang showed up at the desk and told her to let him go because he didn't have the money to pay for anything, let alone a shower at an expensive hotel. And he said something like, does he look like he can afford it, right? And here, there is also very important character in the movie is this migrant girl, right? She's a maid in the house opposite the convenience store, and Guo and his friend are both attracted to her. Her stylish outfits make them mistook her for a city person. They kept peeking at her, and then through a crevice in the courtyard, their gaze is not returned though, and she is silent. But the admiring gaze based on the imagined urban other. And the relationship with the girl is like the relationship with the city as they found in their everyday encounter with the metropolis. So she is like that imagined modern girl, modern city to them, right? So here is the bikes. So this bike, what does the bike symbolize? This is something that's very important and very significant in the movie. So it connotates this modernity, right? It symbolizes differently, however, for Guo and Jin. So to Guo, it symbolizes the livelihood in Beijing, the existential tour. But to Jin, it is a tour to impress his friends, especially the girl he likes, and make him look cool. So we have seen shots of street life in Beijing, an ocean of bicycles, and then you can see the long shots and close-ups, bicycles going left, going right, bicycles carrying mattresses, refrigerators, and other items. And Gui is shown walking the streets looking for the bicycle, right? Well, bicycles are in each shot and all long shots. He does it until it's dark. He is shown at the end of the sequence in long shot standing behind parked bicycles. So here in the end, I'm not showing the clip, but you can see it again. The end scene is very significant, right? The scene when Guo picks up the wrecked bike, hoists it onto his shoulder, and walked off in very slow motion to capture his walk. The whole city seems poised, temporarily frozen in front of the slow walking country youth. Is this ending positive or negative? So I would like you to discuss more. Is he actually holding his faith, or critique of his backward mentality, or is a critique of the rural for impeding the development of cosmopolitan China, right? So some topics that you can discuss more or further go into detail in your discussion board include alienation, displacement, dislocation. These are the central themes in the rural to urban migration and in general migration, right? What are the particular causes for these feelings shown in these films? And what are some of the scenes that shoot that? And the mirage of the city that you can see from these camera shots, like some are very zoom in and clear, some are very zoom out, and then a large group of bicycles and modern life. We have encountered a lot of words also that focus on the children's experience. What's the significance of choosing them as characters, right? And also violence, the allegory of migrants' life in the city. A lot of things to discuss in this movie, so I hope you like it, and I hope this video can give you some more insights into the discussion of the movie. Talk to you soon.